All right, welcome everyone to day two of alumni interviews. Today we're welcoming Hannah, and I'll have her introduce herself in a little bit. Just as a recap, so my name is Rachel. I'm the sales and marketing manager for CIE TEFL. I am also a CIE TEFL CIE alumni of the Teach in Spain program. I taught abroad from 2016 to 2018. And I'm well accompanied today, of course. So I'll have Gabby introduce herself and then we'll get to the star of the show today.
Hey, like Rachel said, as a reminder, I am a CIE Teaching TEFL program assistant. I am also an alumni of the CIE Teach Abroad programs from 2021 to 2023, I believe. But yeah, so stoked to talk to Hannah today and have you guys hear her story too.
All right, Hannah, introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm originally from Maryland. I went to Tufts University for undergrad, where I majored in Spanish and French. And so I always dreamed about like studying abroad. Like that was always going to be the big part of my college experience. I went to school during COVID and I couldn't. So my senior year, I was like, I knew for a fact I need to find a way to get abroad. I ended up finding CIEE. So I ended up teaching in Madrid for the best 2 years of my life from 2022 to 2024. And then since then, I started grad school. I'm now at Harvard at the Kennedy School. Just finished my first year of grad school and starting my second year in a week.
That's fantastic. Very exciting. Now, I'm super excited to dive into this conversation. If anyone didn't get the chance to join yesterday, what we'll do today is we'll talk a little bit about like your thought process before you taught abroad. It sounds like it was because you weren't able to study abroad because of COVID, but we'll get more into that. And then your experience actually on the program and teaching. I think your experience will be really interesting to hear since you did stay for 2 years. So I know as someone who also stayed for 2 years that it changes a lot from one year to the next. And then we'll also talk about what you've been doing since teaching abroad and kind of what teaching abroad has given to your life and how that's impacted where you are now. So I think to start off, we can get back into the question of like, okay, so you didn't get to study abroad in college. Why Spain? It sounds like maybe because you were a Spanish major, but tell us more about like the inspiration for teaching and how you found the program.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of crazy too because I found a photo from 2019, so way before COVID, of it was like a photo of the bulletin board in the language building where I studied of this like teach abroad. It wasn't CIE, it was a different program. So that must have been when I was first like thinking about it, like even pre-COVID. I remember like it was always like a thought I had, like maybe even if I study abroad, I would want to do a year after college, but maybe less sure. So a little background. So my family actually is from Spain. My dad's whole family, they immigrated to the US during like the Franco times. So I always also knew that like spending time in Spain and like I have a lot of family still there and like learning about my grandparents' culture was also really important to me. My parents are both teachers and my little sister actually is two now. So a lot of teaching in the family. So there was a lot of reasons to want to teach abroad. And again, like just with COVID and like life being so crazy, it went from being like this could be cool to like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So I applied to a couple different, and Spain again, because of the family, the language. And there's like, a couple programs you could study or teach in Spain with, but I just felt like as someone who had never like lived abroad before, like the visa process was really daunting. I have family in the north and the south of Spain, but not really people in Madrid. So like the idea of going to Madrid all by myself and not having a way to really meet people in advance was also pretty daunting. So just the fact that CIE had all those options of like the orientation and like the visa help and like spoiler, they actually ended up helping me with my visa my second year too, even though they don't have to. So that ended up being like a nice little bonus I wasn't even expecting. So those were like big reasons I decided I wanted to teach with a program. I also knew like some of the other ones, like if you go like just through the government, like you can't guarantee you're going to be in Madrid. I really wanted to be in Madrid. Traveling was a big part of why I wanted to teach in Spain. So like having those 3-day weekends that this one has, being in Madrid, it kind of just felt like a no-brainer. The other thing is that I decided I was going to actually apply to a few just to see what happens. And I got accepted to CIEE before some other apps even came out. And I was like, why would I keep applying when I could just be really happy with this great program I've been accepted to? So I also love the timeline of it. So for like a million different reasons, it just ended up working out so perfectly.
Yeah, that's great. I totally second that as someone who applied to the program. It's like the guarantee part of it was a big pull because I think a lot of other programs can't offer that type of guarantee. And then the visa support. I'd been to Spain before. I studied abroad in Spain, but the visa support was clutch. That really changed the game because I feel like I always say it's not impossible, but it's pretty tedious. And so getting that help, especially in the second year, like the renewal process too, that really came in handy for sure. So, well, that's great. And so tell us a little bit, like give us a snapshot of what it looked like leading up to moving to Spain. Like, were you like recently graduated? Did you have like a part-time or full-time job? Like what were you doing when you were preparing to leave for Spain?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I did go straight from undergrad to teaching in Spain. I feel like for me that made the most sense. You know, it was the time when I didn't have a job. I was leaving to do this. I didn't have a partner and kids and a house and a mortgage and all these things that do make it later in life a little bit harder, you know, to end up picking up your life. So it just felt like a really good time. And again, because of the fact that I think I ended up applying and getting accepted like December, January. So really that whole second semester of my senior year, like I had the job lined up. So that also like made it so I could really enjoy my second semester, spend more time with friends in Boston and everything, which I also really appreciated that opportunity. So I spent that summer at home. I worked a little more than I probably would have that summer if I weren't going to Spain just to, you know, make some extra money. I also, again, I've been saving up my whole life to study abroad that I didn't do. So I also had those savings. I think I'd be remiss to say, like, this is not a program you probably want to do without at least some savings. I've heard different recommendations. I think it depends on the lifestyle you want to live. But I really, again, I wanted to travel. I wanted to have tapas multiple times a week and, you know, everything. So having that planning in advance did help me be able to live the life in Spain I wanted to live on top of, you know, again, like we can get that later, what I did in Spain to make some more money too. But
Yeah.
yes, that's what I was up to leading up to Spain.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, if anyone's curious about like what our recommendations are for budgeting, we do actually have a budget guide. You can reach out to us via email at teach@cie.org. Because I think that like what Hannah is saying is super, super important that you do not want to go into it blind with no savings. Because the experience will not be as fun, I can promise you. And plus, you do also have to pay the program fee, so that's an important element as well. So yeah, that's great. So you were fresh out of college, coming to Spain. So tell us a little bit about like that arrival in Spain. I'm assuming that you'd been to Spain before because of your family, potentially. So maybe
I've been, but not to Madrid actually.
okay. Okay. So this is your first time in the big city in the capital of the country. Tell us about like those first, first impressions.
Yeah. And again, I did have a bit of a unique experience because my dad ended up spending the first month with me, which was really nice. So, but my first impressions of Madrid, I mean, that's, you know, the same girls who we were with. I was like, I love it here. I literally told my parents I was going to renew before I even started teaching. They're like, let's like slow down, maybe see if you like it. But I was just like, I've been in the city for a week. And if I have to leave in a year, I'm not going to be happy. So I just, you know, I love a big city. I felt like there was just always something to do, but it never felt overwhelming because I feel like it's so like neighborhood based that like depending on the vibe you want, like you know, Seoul's like the big center. It's like the Times Square. Like objectively, I spent very little time there unless I was like with friends who were visiting. Like that's overwhelming. But if you're like in Chueca or La Latina or Malasaña, like some of the cooler, more fun areas, like you get to know the streets and the bars and the people. And I feel like that made it go from this like big overwhelming city to really like, oh my gosh, like I know these neighborhoods really well and I love spending time there. And my friends all lived in different neighborhoods. So getting to, you know, visit this one or that one was nice. Um, and then my dad and I spent some time together. We did a little bit of traveling outside of Spain, and then I came back for orientation. And at that point, I had gotten to know Madrid a little bit, but again, like having like the orientation leader, Gabby and I, we were in the same group. We had Rosie. A fun fact is that she and I became really good friends, and we actually went to Belgium together. My orientation leader and I later that year.
I love that. I love it so much.
That's me getting really lucky, but like you know, you also like put in the work to make relationships, and some of the people in our group also stayed a second year, like Ryan, and he and I stayed friends that second year too. Like you definitely are able to make connections, and then in the evenings we were with the bigger CIE group and we did a lot of events like a flamenco show and a tapas tour, and they helped us get our metro cards and even helped us figure out like the SIM card situation. Like I'd never done a SIM card before. My mom bought my phones when I was a kid, and now I'm in Spain. I'm like, I don't know how this works. So that's like really nice to not have to figure that out by yourself, which again, you do if you don't go with the program. So I was really grateful for those like technical support pieces and also just like being able to make friends right off the bat. That again, obviously, like throughout my year, I made lots of other friends, and we can talk more about like ways to meet people and everything. But just like those first weeks, not having to like eat dinner alone or not having to like feel awkward. How do I meet people? Or like you want to go to an event to make friends. It's nice to go with someone to that. So again, that
Yeah.
orientation was huge for me.
Yeah, I think orientation was another big determining factor. I think when I was doing it, I didn't really realize like how important orientation was going to be going into it. And that like having been through orientation, I feel like that is such a huge pull for CIEE, honestly, because many other people who go on programs don't have orientations like that, and they're huge. Orientation groups are very large. You get the chance to meet a lot of people. If you like are strategic, if you're going with other friends and you spread your friends out across the different orientation groups, you can meet all the different people potentially that are in our program. So there's a lot of opportunity to like start your time off by having some community, which I think is very unique to moving abroad alone. Like that's kind of crazy that you have someone to go out to dinner with and has something in common with you automatically without really trying that hard. So that's really awesome. Well, and so you were in Spain quite a bit of time ahead of when you actually started teaching. And I think one of the big questions that we got on Instagram was about housing, of course. And so I always like to ask about housing. I know sometimes you can share as little as much or you'd like about this. But I mean, it's a hot topic for Spain, of course, because you have to look for your own housing, you have to pay for your own housing. So any details about your housing search, like what neighborhood you ended up choosing, let us know.
Okay, yeah. So my first year situation is again a little unique. I was able to move in with a family friend. So I kind of second year, not so much. So my first year, I did kind of have that sorted, but I was like seeing everyone else like struggle and stress a little. So I was in the Chambéry area my first year and I really liked it. Like it was a little, I mean, outside the city. It was like an 8-minute metro to the middle, but like just like slightly outside. So it was a little bit more like, you walk a little bit to the bars or the things, but it was a good commute and I liked living with a Spanish person. But she ended up for the second, sorry, my Zoom is being weird. For the second year, I ended up she was moving, so I needed to move. So then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in it. Like I'm in the situation I saw everyone be in. And I was pretty stressed, but then I realized, sorry, it's doing like the automatic zooming thing, and I don't know how to change it. So we're just gonna go. Um, and I was really stressed and I was like, Hannah, like you saw everyone do this last year and they were okay. So like you're gonna be okay. So honestly, that was almost kind of nice too. So basically my dad and I again, we went like a month early both times because he wanted to be there and so did I. And so I did the Idealista app and I would just check like multiple times a day. And you can't text landlords, you have to call them, like, and it kind of stinks. And I speak Spanish, that's an advantage. So if you don't speak Spanish, find a friend who does to live with so that they can deal with it for you. Because if you don't, that makes it, I imagine, really tricky. So calling landlords, ended up touring a couple places. Some I was like, I'm not a 18-year-old frat boy. I can't live here. Others, I was like, this is actually not crazy bad and it's in a good location. So ended up finding a place in Lavapiés. Loved that neighborhood. I'm glad I lived in two neighborhoods actually. I think that gave and two very different ones, but also two great ones. So kind of a more unique experience. It ended up being a bit of we basically like signed like early September, but I couldn't move in till October 1st, which again, like my dad was there. I just stayed with him. So it was kind of fine. If you have to Airbnb it or sublet, you kind of figure it out. But that worked out because we didn't start work until October 3rd. So we still had 2 days to move in. And just like, I guess I could have kept looking in theory, but just like being able to sign, I would say if you like it and it's good, like sign, you know what I mean? Like get yourself housing. And we were paying a little more than I paid my first year. But at that point, I'd also established a pretty strong like tutoring presence. Like I knew what I was making. I knew I could afford it. So I would also say like when you're thinking about budgeting for housing, like really keep in mind how much, I mean, like maybe you aren't going to work as much as you think or you'll work more than you think, but like have in mind how much you think we making extra to really supplement that €1,000 a month. Sorry, that's kind of a
Yeah.
long answer.
But yeah, budgeting is really, really important. I think I really liked what you said about like the neighborhoods in Madrid. I think a lot of folks are concerned about like being close to the center and like being in the middle of everything. But I think the neighborhood thing is really crucial about Madrid. And Gabby, you can shout out anything that you feel about this too. Is like there's kind of a lot for like something for everybody, and you don't need to be in Seoul to be in it. Like
You
there,
probably shouldn't be in Seoul.
Mhm.
exactly. Probably not. But yeah, Gabby, where did you live? I think you were close to Lava PS2, weren't you?
Yes, I was right on the cusp by Anton Martin. And so, with Lavapiés, you're going to Tapapiés, you're going to all of the other things, and every little neighborhood has, as Hannah knows, as Rachel knows, something for itself and something that makes it stand out. Big fan of Lavapiés. I love that you ended up living there second year, Hannah.
Yeah, it was super fun. And again, like, I mean, I'm just gonna shout out, like, I would honestly say between like Lavapiés, like Chueca, Malasaña, Chambéry, even a little bit the Moncloa area, I think has its own thing too.
Mm-hmm.
There's the other area I'm like blanking like right by that's kind of nice. Atocha being near there. Like also think about ways like my second year, I could walk to Atocha to then take either the cercanía to the airport or a train somewhere else in Spain. When it was my first year, like it was like a 30-minute metro to get there. So also thinking about like, you obviously want to be able to get to the fun parts of Madrid, but how are you getting to your travels? And again, like living close to your school. So both years I also got very lucky that I was placed decently close to the city center. So both years, even though I had very different commutes, I was about a 30-minute train ride. And that was important to me. Like objectively, I think if I'd gotten placed a little more outside city center, I still would have tried to find a way to like not be too far from work. Cause like, you're there 4 days a week. Like you don't want that to be miserable either. So I
Yeah.
did get lucky in that I could live in the city center and get to work pretty quickly. But I think just like being strategic about that as well. And not just thinking about like, where am I closest to the bars and museums, but also like how am I closer to other things too to make it work.
Yeah. Well,
Totally.
so it's similar to our budgeting guide, we also do have a community of Madrid guide that, I put my 2 cents in there of how to organize and how to like really think about the organization of Madrid transport, but also like where people actually live and where they actually have their school placement. So if you guys are curious about that, I'll try to put this in the comments or the notes of the YouTube video as well. But basically we organize it in like major transportation hubs that make it super easy for you to get around. And then in relationship with like the neighborhoods and things like that. But I would encourage everyone to do your own research on neighborhoods in Madrid. You can use AI nowadays. I feel like it's a lot easier than maybe when we taught abroad, but yeah, do your own research and find like where your like little niche in the city is going to be. I think that's a good way to look at the neighborhood thing is a big one, in my opinion. But great. Well, so now let's get a little bit further into your school placement. From what I remember, this sounds like super creepy, and I realize that I know a lot of like details about participants of our programs, being on the back end of things. But I think you had a kind of a more unique school placement. So tell us about like what you put on your preferences, and then kind of what that looked like in real life.
Yeah. I had such a unique placement. Oh my goodness. With a lot of good and challenges that brought. So what did I want? I actually just saw this like recently that I didn't even know what I'd put. So I did want to do middle or high school, which in Spain is like one and the same. There's primary and secondary. Um, I was just more comfortable with working with older students. I found that more interesting. And then for neighborhoods, I think I put a couple of the more central ones. I think I said I actually preferred age over location, which looking back, I'm gonna be honest, I would have gone the opposite. Like my recommendation, I would go based on location, but everyone's do whatever they want. And then I also didn't have a partner or a friend I was going with, so I didn't have to rank that. My school, first of all, it was like one school that had 3 campuses, which is not normal. So don't worry, that's not going to happen to you. But it was one school with 3 campuses, which also made it like I could not have chosen my housing based on location because they were in 3 different locations. But luckily, all 3 were like relatively near city center. So I knew like I was going to be that 30-minute commute, just like whichever way I ended up. 2 of the 3 locations were like special schools for athletes. So the way that like in the United States you might have like a gifted and talented program, they have like an athlete program. So all of my students were on like Spanish national teams for different sports because I ended up primarily in the one school that was all for athletes. So the schedule was also weird. It was secondary school and it was from like 10 to 4 because they had to be able to practice in the morning and the afternoon. So it was also a bit of a challenge because like academics were not my students' focus like whatsoever. Like they were all trying to get onto like Olympic teams. I had one student who ended up playing for Real Madrid. I had a couple students who ended up swimming at Stanford after. So I guess they cared a little more about academics, but not as much as maybe they should have. I did have a couple again, like oh, how was your weekend? It was good. We won the European Championships in synchronized swimming. Oh, cool. I went on a trip too. Like, so I don't know. So it was both really, really, really cool and interesting and unique, but also some challenges. And then something else I dealt with my first year is like there was supposed to be one aux at my school where I was, and then another aux with the other two. And I guess that person like never showed up. So then they ended up like switching me around the campuses for a while. So then that was kind of frustrating because I was like, I have like my tutoring schedule, I have like my commute. Like, what do you mean? Like, so that was like for 1 month, and then I was like, this is not working. And they're like, okay. So they ended up putting me back. So again, like you're in a foreign country and they are your bosses and they can, change things on you, which can be challenging and a little frustrating sometimes too. But obviously not enough to not do a second year. And then my second year, they were still kind of like, we don't know where we're going to put you. I was like, I'm going to need you to know, and I'm going to need you to put me back in the school I've been in for a year. Thank you. And then they did. So, just challenge. And then like, we need you to go to the other school every month to sign your paper. I was like, it's an hour bus school to school. So I'm actually going to go in like twice a year to sign a bunch. Like, so they're just going to throw things at you and you're just going to have to kind of work through it and be flexible, but also stand up for yourself and also work with people. I think those three things together and you find the right combination are very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think finding a good like communication method is a big challenge of living abroad for sure, and like how to communicate with your school. And I think, CIU, we do what we can in terms of like helping negotiate and bridge that gap. But it is true. It's like you are the most powerful person in that situation, right? To advocate for yourself. So yeah, it's difficult. And especially like, I think my next question kind of is in line with that, especially with when it comes to communication is, it sounds like you're bilingual or at least close to that. You can elaborate on that a little bit more. But I know like the language barrier is a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal when it comes to looking for housing. And it's a big deal sometimes when you're dealing with staff at your school too. So how did you feel in terms of like the language barrier? Was it a shock to arrive in Spain after having learned Spanish and, from your bachelor's degree? Kind of how was that transition in terms of language?
Yeah. And again, like this is my experience is a bit different because like I grew up speaking Spanish. So like honestly, everyone I talk to, I just envision them as my grandparents, which is also just kind of funny. So, again and again, that was really important to me. Like I know some people, when they're deciding on, to do Spain or Korea or Thailand, whatever, that's not really a thing. Like for me, like I was never going to move to a country I was not fluent in the language in, but that's also just me. A lot of people do it differently, and that's also totally fine. So like I definitely did have an advantage, in communicating with staff. At the same time, you have that bilingual coordinator in your school at Nest. Like she was my person, and we probably talked like mostly in English, to be honest, and then some in Spanish as well. And it was more Spanish with other staff. So like really that bilingual coordinator, like become their best friend. Like do not let them become your enemy, do not let them become tense and awkward. Like they need to be your best friend because they're really the ones advocating for you, advocating with you, helping you talk to other staff. So I really recommend that. Again, like as you're moving to Spain and like you're on the Facebook groups finding roommates or finding friends, like I really do recommend if you don't speak Spanish, like at least try to improve a bit before you go, and B, like make friends that do, because when it comes to landlords and events and other things, like that is really important. A lot of my friends while they were in Spain would have like Spanish tutors. They would go like once or twice a week, either in groups or individual classes, whatever. The classes are also a great way to make friends, so people really like that as well. So that's something to consider. Another reason to stay a second year, like really see, like improve your Spanish and then see the fruits of your labor, in that second year. So I would say like for me, it was important to my experience. But it doesn't have to be. Like at the same time, like, when I'd be going to like a went to a lot of intercambios, which are like language exchanges in bars, and this very like social kind of just meeting people, talking, and like I was meeting a lot more like Spanish, Latin American people. You can also go and meet English speakers. A lot of people speak English. You can still make friends from all over the world, even not being fluent in Spanish. You can go practice your Spanish, practice other languages. So I think maybe it's a little bit of a different experience if you speak Spanish or not, but like everyone I'm friends with who was not fluent in Spanish, like still had amazing experiences, still met a lot of people, did a lot of things, found housing, right? Like it's going to be okay. I would also say in those scenarios, like really connect with that orientation leader. Like if you can't go to a bank without speaking Spanish, and you don't speak Spanish, like get someone to help you. I don't know what I just said. Like, you know what I know when I
Shout
went.
out to Rosie there.
Shout out to Rosie. That was really great. And like even my second year, like my roommate did not speak Spanish. Like I took her to the bank and helped her get a bank account. So like, you know, make friends who can do that for you. And I would say it'd be, I mean, I don't want to say don't be like strategic in your friendships, but just like, you know who can help you with what and know how you can then help them in other ways too, right? I would say.
Yeah, invite them for a caña or a cafe,
Exactly.
the little things.
We're happy to do it then.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what I always mention about language for folks is that it is what you make of it. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, right? I mean, it's a different experience for everybody. And it is like if you want to be friends with Spanish speakers and you want to improve your Spanish, A-okay, go right about it. There's gonna be lots of opportunities to do that. And if you're feeling uncomfortable and you want to have a little bit more of like that comfort friendship where you're speaking in your native language, then you can do that too.
I will
So
also say, like, I think especially if you aren't fluent in Spanish, like that's where Madrid is the best city to be. Like, I had a friend who did a different program and she was in this like tiny little town near Granada. She's fluent in Spanish as well, so she was fine. Like, genuinely, if you did not speak Spanish, you would not have had a fun year. Like, that would not have been good. In Madrid, if you don't speak Spanish, like you will make friends and have fun and be totally fine. So this is another, good reason to do CIE in that situation.
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, let's get more into, because you talked a little bit about like the placement, but let's talk about like the teaching aspect, and kind of what was the expectation? Like, were you full on like lesson planning, leading the classroom, with your other teacher in the classroom as well, because language assistants are never alone with students, but kind of what were the expectations and what was the professional development? What does that look like over 2 years teaching in Spain?
Yeah. And again, everyone's placement is different. I think I got really lucky because I definitely was looking for a little more like autonomy in the classroom, and I definitely got that. So I pretty much was like standing up teaching lessons. I would say my first year was almost all actually like lessons. Either I was lesson planning or finding on Facebook, join Facebook groups. People have got some great lessons. I don't know if with AI that's even different too. I haven't even thought about that, but like something to think about. I don't know. But my first year I was doing a lot of lesson planning and like, I took Spanish and French through high school and college. I took Russian in college too. I'd been in a lot of language classrooms. So I kind of like, because of that, felt like a little more prepared to teach more autonomously. Um, my second year, there was a lot of teacher switching, and I feel like I ended up doing a lot more lessons like that they would prepare, but then I would teach, which was kind of nice too. So I really liked that because I felt like I was, using my brain a little more, like connecting with the kids a lot. Like I liked the fact that I was leading the classroom and the teacher was more there for like discipline support, which was needed. So I was very grateful to not be alone in those situations. Um, but a lot of people have very different experiences, and I also feel confident that like if I did not want, like I think if I had not wanted that, that would not have been the case. I think it was very much like, do you feel like you can do this? And I was like, absolutely. Like day one, like what can I do, what can I teach, what can I bring? So I would again say that's where communication is key. Work with your bilingual supervisor. If you feel like you're being given too much to do or too little to do, like that's going to vary by person and by school. And so I think that is really important. Like there were some times when I was like, my first year I was teaching 7th to 12th grade,
Mhm.
and I was like lesson planning every lesson. I was like, I objectively like cannot, do this many right now. But like I figured out the 7th and 8th graders could have the same lesson. And that wasn't a big deal. You know what I mean? So kind of like figuring that out. And then my second year, I was 7th to 11th grade. And then 10th and 11th grade was a lot more them giving me work to do with them. So then with 7th to 9th, I had a lot more time to be creative and make my own plans and everything. So situation by situation, work with your teachers, work with your, admin. They want to help you. So
Yeah, absolutely. I found it was really like dependent on the teacher. Like that was the teacher made the decision, and so like it has less to do with like the school in general, but the expectations of each individual teacher and finding the rhythm in that. And it's okay not to have a good rhythm like after the first month too. I feel like sometimes the teachers don't even have it all together, which they're getting stuff thrown at them all the time. So I understand that too. And so I think it's all about just being flexible and like you're saying, advocate when you need to, if you have too much work, too little work, and go from there. So that's great. One, I did want to touch on, because you talked about this a little bit before, but private tutoring, and everything that comes along with that. I think that's an interesting thing that a lot of folks have questions about for teaching in Spain, for sure.
Yeah, so I went in with again like a good amount of savings, but I was traveling like a lot. Gabby was as well, and I was going out to dinner a lot and going out on weekends a lot, and like I wanted to be able to do that. So I knew I was going to need to work. So, and people would ask me how I found people. I think I had like 8 clients. I found like 8 different ways. Like one person I got through orientation because my OL like had too many people. One I met like the first, I was involved in Jewish life in Madrid as well, kind of separately, and I met someone through an aux there. Like one was like someone in my building, one was a person through school. Like I mean, I don't even know how I got. I joined some Facebook groups, and those can be really hit or miss. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember, yeah, my first year I put out a couple feelers in October, got nothing, and then in January 3 of them ended up like contacting me, 3 different people. I was like, wait, that's so weird and random, but like, great. I would love some more money to go on another trip. So I feel like just really being like diligent there as well. Asking friends, like, are you, because like sometimes people would ask if I could tutor them and I would have to say no because I didn't have the bandwidth. But then I would obviously not just like say no. I'd be like, oh, but my friend, is available. So that thing too. So my first year, I was doing a lot of tutoring, some virtual, some in person. I charged between 16 and 20 euro, depending on the person. Obviously, I was looking to charge closer to 20, but if someone said we'll pay 16 and that's it, I was like, all right, it is what it is. My second year, I started off tutoring again in the beginning, but then I actually ended up getting a very part-time remote job in the States through one of my friends. So I was actually tutoring like American students, and that obviously pays a lot more. So then what I ended up doing is I gave up all my in-person tutorings to other friends, but then I kept my 2 virtual ones because I was like, it's so like minimal work. And so that's another thing too, is thinking about like, how if it's 16 euro and you're going an hour each way, that's not worth it. But if it's like 20 and it's like, 15 minutes each way on the T, it is a lot more worth it. The T, oh my God, I'm so Boston now. The Metro, that's embarrassing. Yeah, so definitely, thinking about like what's important to you, what money you need, money you want, your bandwidth. My first year I had Fridays off, so I didn't want to tutor on Thursdays because I wanted to be able to leave for a trip on Thursday night if I needed. So I would tutor like Monday through Wednesday, a couple hours a day, still have my nights free if I needed, and then have like Thursday night and beyond free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, tutoring is a great way to get some extra cash if you need it. So it's definitely a resource out there. I found it was pretty easy to find, like you're saying. I mean, if you are getting connected, working on that, I think the classes will come. And I think even some students at your school will ask you too. I had that happen to me.
Yes.
So
That happened my first year. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think there's definitely opportunities out there to do that.
It's more
So
so,
yeah, tell me.
I was just going to mention, it's more so, honestly, it's not an issue in finding people to tutor, finding clients. It's more so an issue juggling the amount of opportunities that you receive. Because, like Hannah mentioned, you can honestly find people who need to be tutored or parents who want their students to be tutored literally in a million different avenues. And it was kind of what Hannah mentioned, whereas like her orientation leader had an extra amount of, you know, such and such people who need tutoring, handed them off. Like I had the same situation where I constantly had friends asking, hey, do you want to pick up another tutoring gig? My plate is full. So yeah, definitely not a shortage of opportunity there.
Yeah, for sure. I always thought too that it was about location, because I was not about to
Yeah,
be like going to all ends of Madrid in one day. I don't know about you guys.
right.
I'm like not wanting to spend like, 4+ hours. I was already like an hour and a half commute out of the city for my school placement.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, listen, I cannot stay on the metro for another 3 hours just to go to these classes that are all around. So that's another priority too, to look at like where the locations of the classes are and to narrow it down that way as well.
Like for me,
Definitely.
some of my in-person ones I was able to combine like on Tuesdays, like I was going pretty like 30,
Mhm.
40 minutes, but it was like two in the same neighborhood. And I had a virtual one in between that I was like at a cafe. So like that was like perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can also be kind of strategic there.
Yeah, be strategic. Yeah, for sure. One,
Yeah.
so I see some questions in the chat for some people. I think I'm gonna save these closer to the end. Because I do like kind of the long story of like before, during, and after. But these are really good questions, so I will come back to them just for folks that are waiting to get their questions answered. But the last question I have, actually, I have kind of two questions, more about like the during the experience. The first question would be, I guess more just about like friends and what that looks like. I mean, of course, we've talked about how you can make a lot of friends and get your feet off the ground when you arrive with orientation. But what does like the friendship look like throughout 2 years of teaching? Like, what does that community building look like and how do you go about it?
Yeah. Oh my God. I just saw one of my best friends from Spain is on, so now I'm gonna get emotional. Oh my gosh. Hi, Rachel. Making friends. Oh my gosh. And so, it's like anything where it's like what you make of it. So I definitely, hey girl, definitely like I made some really wonderful friends in orientation who are people that I continue to see and stay in touch with. But I feel like the people I was closest with in Madrid ended up being people I met through some other really random avenues. So, okay, actually, I'm gonna share all the random ways I met people. So, one of my best friends from my first year, Tabitha, she's British. We met at one of those like intercambios. We both showed up too early, and that's how we met. She ended up being one of my best friends. Like to this day, we ended up because she only did we only overlapped for 1 year, but then my second year in Spain, when she was back in England, we ended up meeting up both in London and in Amsterdam. So that endured. Okay, so one of my other good friends, Megan, I met because we met on the Facebook group for CIEE. This
Mhm.
is an embarrassing story for me. I became friends with two blonde girls named Megan on the CIEE. I met one of them during orientation and I went to like message her like, hey, fun meeting you at orientation, like let's get coffee. I messaged the wrong blonde Megan. Like I swear I know blonde people don't look the same. And she was like, we didn't meet at orientation, but we talked before. So we ended up becoming like good friends. Later found out like weird, embarrassing. We were like, I would say first year we were good friends. Second year we got like really, really close. And then I met Rachel through her. And then the three of us, like we are like a trio, like FaceTiming every week to this day. They both came to Boston with me in January. So that's like that friendship bloomed in like the weirdest of ways. And they met at the CIE orientation actually at Luggage Claim, which is cute too. A little shout out. One of my other best friends in Madrid, who I just visited in Michigan, we met because my second year when I was at the one school, she was at like the other two schools that were all
Mhm.
connected. So like our bilingual coordinator like connected us. We kind of were like messaging. Turned out she was assigned there by mistake, so I ended up moving her. But we'd already decided to meet at a coffee shop and we like hit it off and are like now like such good friends. Other friends I met like I met this girl, other friend Madeline, because someone I'd met on Facebook during my takeover, someone I'd met on my CIE takeover had met this girl at the airport and she wanted to connect us and we became really close. So like genuinely, I could go on forever, but you just meet people in weird ways and then they're in your life forever. So
Yeah. Well, if that's not a plug for doing a takeover, if you want friends, do a takeover. You never know what's gonna happen.
So yes, you meet people in lots of ways. You know, you meet people like doing like language learning classes, intercambios. I know Rachel used to do dance classes in Madrid, met people that way. You have other auxes at your schools. You meet in the park and on the streets, and it's just great. There's so many ways
Yeah.
to meet people in Madrid.
Well, so here's my question. Did you show up to this coffee shop date with Megan and you're like, you're not like what was your thought? Like, did
I
you recognize her?
I don't even remember. I just honestly, I was probably just so like happy to like be making a new friend that I was not even thinking clearly. And I was like, yeah, at orientation the week of the 12th, it was so fun, haha. She was like, I wasn't there for that one. I was like, yeah, you were. Remember we talked? She was like, well, I was there the next, anyways. We figured it out pretty quickly. Oh my God, it's so funny. And like now they're my two best friends in the world. Like, how does that happen? You know what I mean? So
It's destiny. I was talking about that
destiny.
yesterday. There's a lot, I think, when it comes to teaching abroad and like getting your placement and like there's a lot of randomness that goes into teaching abroad. And I feel like it really is destiny. And that like meeting friends like that, those stories that you just told is a big demonstration of that. Like
A
it's
lot
truly
of destiny
destiny.
in Madrid. I'm so serious. Like I believe this with
Yeah.
my whole soul. There's so
Yeah.
much destiny there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, that's amazing. So, okay, so now we're, we talked about friends, and like what that looks like over the span of 2 years. Now I really want to get into like what happens when you come to the end of your second year. Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Was your thought process? That's like, it's like the golden question for everyone is like, what comes after teaching abroad? So take us through that journey.
Absolutely. So, in classic me fashion, I've been thinking this through for quite a while. So, I decided, even I know I made my like big declaration before I even started teaching. Within like a couple months of teaching, I also know I was going to be, doing a second year. And I knew that, I think 2 years was going to be perfect for me. I'm so happy I did the 2 years. I think a third year would have been too much. I think a 1 year would have been not enough. And I knew I didn't really have any like job I like really wanted to do. So I was like, I think I should try to leverage my like working abroad experience towards a graduate degree. So I like thought about things I'd done, mentors I had I really liked, and I basically decided I wanted to get a degree in public policy. I felt like I really enjoy learning about government. It's also a little STEMmy, like a lot of econ and statistics. And I felt like with my background in Spanish and French, I could like really use that, like in international government settings. And like, working abroad, as much as, we like laugh, like you are working with like people from other cultures and you're able to like, work across language barriers and cultural differences and like literally move to a different country and function there and be okay. So I felt like I could really leverage that. So I ended up applying to public policy programs. I think I was I did the GRE, the graduate school admissions test, the summer in between. So I
Okay.
really used that time because I didn't want to be, traveling and studying. So I really used that summer to study, took the test, did it right before I came back. And I used that fall to be, applying to grad school while I was there, which isn't like the most fun, but like when you're in a coffee shop with your like pan con tomate and your coffee, like it's not as bad. So I was
Yeah.
applying to schools like October, November, which again, like you have to kind of think ahead there. You can't come to May and be like, oh, maybe I guess some programs you probably could, but not for mine. So I ended up applying to three schools. Two of them had like early admission or early decision. So like I found out about Georgetown and UVA in December. I was like, UVA it is. I'm gonna go there. And I love Virginia. I've been so happy to go there. But then in March, I ended up getting into Harvard, decided I wanted to go there after. So then again, like, there was some like pre-orientation stuff and studying I had to do to get ahead that I was able to do while I was in Spain. So I moved back mid-July, I want to say. I like after I finished teaching, I traveled for a couple weeks because I was like, when will I ever be living here and getting to go to all these places so easily again? So I did a lot of traveling that summer after, but then I still had a good month to like come home, like decompress, breathe, and then I moved up to Cambridge in August and started school a week later. So that was
August of last year.
yeah, so I started August of 24.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I mean the positions ended in June, so you had like it sounded like you had a good balance of things leading up to going back to school.
Absolutely.
So that's great. So tell us more about like, and again, this is another big golden question. Tell us about like your vision and like how Teach Abroad is going to really impact like your career decisions from here on out. Like, what's your vision with, when you finish school, and ultimately what you're wanting to do?
Yeah. So you know what? That's the golden question for myself as well. I definitely think that I want to go into like either like a government relations or more like public sector consulting right after grad school. What I like about those opportunities, I would kind of be working like for one office, be working like really in a lot of different places as well. A lot of those jobs require a lot of travel, which is something I really enjoy. So like that's definitely something I know, like I like that and I'm energized by that. Like that's not exhausting to me. That's interesting. Um, when I'm applying to these firms, like, you need to stand out somehow. And the fact that I can put that I'm, fluent in Spanish and French, and the fact that I can put like I've worked with international clients before, my students are my clients, right? So I
Yeah.
can talk about that in an interview. And even like this school year, I had the opportunity for our like winter break. I interned with the mayor of Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was really cool. But when I asked her, I was like, I'm just curious, like when you were like hiring people, like what made me stand out? And she's like, well, I wanted like a Spanish speaker who will be able to actually like, work with me in the community in a way that I can. And like that's like not only did I speak Spanish, but I literally worked and lived in a Spanish speaking community where I can really help politicians make an impact in that way. And so I think maybe that's like less of like a direct connection. I know some people are wanting to go more of an education route or like a working, in a teacher abroad space. But for me, just like having that cultural competency and that ability to work across languages, work across cultures, I think that's going to help me truly no matter where my career goes. My goal is to be able to live and work in DC, so another capital city, visit Madrid whenever I can. So
Yeah.
I would say it really has both in applying to like grad school, but also like every internship, fellowship, job I applied to, I talk about my teach and Spain time. Like that is like a big thing on my resume that I really try to highlight because not only are those skills so transferable, but again, like it's unique. Like everyone in my program majored in poli sci and worked for the government and blah blah blah. It's really impressive and great, but like me having this like very unique, different experience, like that does make me stand out in ways that I think people sometimes underestimate. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that you sharing that because I think a lot of times when people get into teaching abroad, it feels like the only out and way to take advantage of that experience is to go further into international education. And that's not always true. Like you're saying, I think there are a lot of transferable skills that you gain from being in the classroom and being in a different country. And you can only really know that after you've done it, right? So yeah, I think there's a world of possibilities. Teaching abroad opens up a lot of doors for folks, whether that is an international education or not. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in DC.
I would love
Like the
that.
future. Great. Well, I think let's go to these last questions.
Absolutely.
So we have some time to answer them. So someone said, for people starting in January, is there an opportunity to connect with individuals who start in the cohort in fall? I think, we do try our best to connect folks that start within the same school year. So I anticipate that you would be connected with them either through the Facebook group. Facebook group is a big deal, guys. If you don't have Facebook, get one.
Yeah, and if like as an individual question too, if you really want to be added to a specific Facebook group from a previous year, or it's always nice too because you can hear about people who are leaving their apartments. Maybe people are trying to give it to another person who has come through CIE. Then definitely just email the teach@cie.org email, and then we'll add you to whatever Facebook group that you'd like to.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that in the chat right now for everyone. teach@cie.org. Yeah, big deal, the Facebook group. I think maybe keep straight the Megans in the group. So confused. Other than that, lots of fun to be had. The next question is, and I'll ask this to Hannah, but I think any of us can jump in on this too. But what to pack and how to pack for abroad? I'm assuming I won't have easy access to receive things that I'm used to in the US and may not come back home as frequently. What are your thoughts there, Hannah?
I have strong thoughts actually.
Ooh.
So I like in a good way, right? Like I would say, first of all, I'm such an overpacker. Living in Spain has helped me realize I'm too materialistic and I need to own less things. Because that second year was brutal. So I would just say also like so many things are so much cheaper in America, like or in Spain than America. Like do not go like buying a lot of clothes before you go. Like you're gonna want to get the styles and the prices in Spain. The big thing I would say are kind of musts are like medicine. Like they don't have like NyQuil and DayQuil and like medicine's a lot stronger in America and you're gonna get sick from all the traveling and having fun. So I would really pack medicines. Also, like if you have like specific like hair or like skin products, they might have similar ones in Spain, but they might not. So like I would really stock up on those. But also like they have Amazon in Spain. I did use my Amazon a good amount for like my hair gel and stuff that they didn't have like at the pharmacy near me. Um, I would really say like if you can try to limit, deodorant. I agree. It's a lot stronger in America. So we've talked about this. Yes, bring your American deodorant or get it on Amazon if you run out. Like genuinely, it is very important. But I would just say like less is more. Like you're gonna buy your sheets and towels and stuff in Spain. Like really, the more you can limit your bag. Also, like if you move and you don't have housing yet, which you probably won't, like you're not gonna want to be lugging 3 to 4 suitcases around. So if you can really limit it to like one or two big ones and then your small one in your backpack, like you will be so appreciative. And then just know over time you'll accumulate stuff and have to buy suitcases to bring home, and that's okay too. But I would say starting off with as little as you can, you will never regret that.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think, Gabby?
Totally. I could not agree more. I was also in the pool of having to buy a suitcase on my way home because there's just too much stuff. And I love trinkets. I'm one of those people who, whether it's clothes or whether it's, like collective things like postcards, chocolate, all that fun stuff, like I could not collect more of it. So it was quite necessary to buy a whole nother piece of luggage just to take everything home. And like Hannah said, everything in Spain is just so much more affordable, from the sheets to like literally any clothes that you're looking at. And you know what?
Nice
It's fun
shoes
to shop
too.
there
Like
too. Yeah, it's fun. And yeah, less is more whenever you're moving to Spain. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I think one thing too, in terms of like, I think people pack a lot of like formal wear for, not formal wear, but like more professional stuff for the teaching position. But teachers in Spain are pretty casual. Like it's pretty cash overall. And so that was something that I like, don't bring a blazer, I mean, like you can buy a blazer if you need it, absolutely. But things like that, I mean, I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt a lot of times to go to school and super
Yeah.
comfy shoes. You need like Spain will eat your shoes up. Okay. So if you have like a favorite shoe or like you're looking for a comfy shoe, that's like a non-negotiable. High heels, probably not as much because you don't want to be stumbling around on a cobblestone. But yeah, shoes are a big one for me because again, Madrid will eat your shoes up. So you definitely want to get some really good shoes to walk around and be comfortable. And then bags are expensive these days. Going back and forth between Spain, you don't get free check bags anymore. So I would say keep it to one bag and then, you can buy another suitcase and ship it back with you, when you're coming back home, but keep it pretty limited for sure. Because otherwise you're gonna be spending a pretty penny just on luggage. And that's never fun. You don't give the airlines your money, you guys. Don't do it. That's not that's not what it's about. It's about using that money for other airlines to travel to other places.
Yes.
Well, I know, so you guys, the last couple questions here. You guys are like travel experts, the two of you. Okay, so like you guys did a lot of stuff when you're out in Spain. What would be your top 3 destinations? I'll start with Hannah.
okay. So
Ooh.
my favorite place that I went outside of Spain, I would definitely say was Croatia. Um,
Mhm.
I did that as part of a week. I did a week-long trip with a friend from the States who came and met me, so we could like really spend time after I finished teaching. I feel like Croatia is a country you want to spend a little more time than a long weekend. So either go like after you're done or for one of the longer breaks. Also, I'd recommend. But I would say within Spain, Sevilla is a must. It is so beautiful in the south of Spain, and that you can definitely do in like one of those 3-day weekends. And then also the Canary Islands. So I went for both birthdays because it's like a 3-hour flight. It's like pretty far considering it's literally in Spain, but it's like so far away. But like my birthday's in February and I was in the ocean on both of my birthdays, and that was really awesome. So I
Yeah.
feel, and they're also just so beautiful and it's so unique. It's like the Hawaii of Spain. So I would say I did one to Gran Canaria, which is one of the big ones. That and Tenerife are the 2 big ones, and then one was Lanzarote, which is one of the smaller, less known ones. So whether you're going to one of the really common ones, or you just get a really good deal on a flight to one of the smaller islands, like you will not regret it. You should.
Yeah, great advice. I approve of all those locations. Those are all great places to go, for sure. Gabby,
I
what about you?
I also could not agree more. Yeah, I think in terms of within Spain, I agree. Sevilla, beautiful. Granada, insanely beautiful. Definitely a must stop if you're living in Spain. Outside of Spain, Switzerland like blew my socks off. It just the effortless beauty in Switzerland. Of course, it's a lot more expensive, but it's very very beautiful, very breathtaking. And there's a lot of things to do there if you like snowboarding, skiing, skydiving, all those fun things. I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I seek doing those things in specific areas. Switzerland is a great one to do it in. One that, people talk about Ireland a lot, and I'm going to keep talking about it because I love Ireland. I think immediately stepping into that country, it was like, you feel like you're a part of their family. For some reason, all of a sudden, I was like, am I Irish? Am I related to you? Because I just felt that welcome immediately, just the welcoming feeling. And then similar to Hannah, I, of course, would love nothing more than to be on the beach for my birthday. So I went with maybe there were like 12 of us. I think all from CIEE, ended up going to the coast of Italy, like near Naples, for my birthday. And then one of our other friends, Kaylee, we share a birthday in May. So that was really, really special. The location, there's a lot of beautiful locations in Italy. I think what made it really special was the amount of people that were there celebrating, and just, the people really make your experience that much stronger. So those are a few areas I like to highlight, but ultimately, I mean, as Hannah knows, as Rachel, there's not enough time in the world to see everything, but there's a lot of good stuff out there for sure.
Yeah. I think what I'll say about travel is, especially because you guys have 3-day weekends in Spain, do the train trips. That is the best way to travel. So I feel like
Totally.
things you can't miss. Valencia, you can't miss being so close to it from Madrid. Like Hannah said, Seville is an awesome place to go. Malaga is another place, a beach area that's really nice to go for a 3-day weekend. Granada is my top location outside of Madrid to go visit. And then anywhere up north too, I feel like you can't really go wrong. Bilbao, San Sebastian, anywhere Asturias, Cantabria, all of that is
So beautiful.
beautiful.
So green. Honestly, like they say Asturias is the Ireland of Spain, and they're right. Like
Yeah.
the cliffs, the green.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I second Ireland, by the way. It's the one I've been back to Europe once since I moved back to the States. I went to Ireland. Dublin to Boston's like a 5-hour flight. It was very cheap. I went for a 3-day weekend. It was crazy.
Insane.
Yes,
I
a
absolutely
viral
love
video from Gabby about cheap flights to Dublin. That one's down there on the TikTok feed, but let me tell you,
it's way down there, but
amazing. Well, okay, so to wrap this up, the last question I'm going to ask everybody is your top piece of advice for anyone who's thinking about teaching abroad, who's teaching abroad, who is finished teaching abroad. What is that piece of advice from you, Hannah?
Honestly, my advice is go for it. Like try the new, whether you're thinking about going to Spain, you're in Spain, like try the new thing, push yourself out of your comfort zone. Like not to be like you only live once, but you only live once. So try the thing you thought you'd never try, push yourself, and like move to Spain and teach for a year. It's so fun, and you might as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Go for it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Cool.
Just do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us today. Thanks for everyone who joined live. If you're catching this on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck, Hannah. It sounds like you have a lot of a future ahead of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Bye, Hannah.
Catch you guys tomorrow. See ya.